So, what if I told you that a single intention could reshape your entire reality? Today we're exploring a really profound idea from Mahayana Buddhism called bodhisattva. It's this simple, yet kind of radical act of dedicating everything you do to a greater good, and it's said to hold some serious transformative power.
The ancient text we're looking at introduces this whole idea with a pretty powerful metaphor. A medicine that lets you live for a kalpa, which is just an immeasurably long time. But, this isn't about physical immortality. It's about unlocking the boundless potential that's hiding in a single, conscious intention.
So, to really get a handle on this, we're going to explore 4 powerful metaphors from the source text: infinite life, invisibility, a precious jewel, and a brilliant light. Think of each one as a key that unlocks another piece of the puzzle, showing us how we can turn this powerful idea into a real daily habit. Okay, so first up, how can a simple intention act like some kind of life-giving medicine? Well, the source tells us the secret isn't actually in the action itself. It's in a crucial step that happens afterward. It's all about where we decide to direct the energy from that action.
This practice is called hoi hun, or the dedication of merit. The whole idea is that every single action we take generates a result, right? It's like a ripple in a pond. Now, instead of just letting that ripple benefit us by default, dedication is the act of consciously aiming that energy toward a much, much bigger purpose.
That all sounds great in theory, but how do we actually do it? That's the million-dollar question, and it's exactly what the disciple in the text asks. And the answer we get is a really simple 3-step formula that can turn literally any action into a practice. Okay, so here's how it works. Before you do something, you awaken. You just take a second to recognize the positive potential in what you're about to do. Then, as you're doing it, you intend. You infuse that action with compassion. And finally, after you're done, you dedicate. You consciously point the result of that action, planting that good seed for a much larger harvest down the road. And this is really where the magic happens. A totally mundane task like sweeping the floor suddenly becomes profound. You're not just cleaning anymore. You're taking the energy of that simple act and dedicating it, thinking, hey, may this tiny action contribute to me becoming a healing presence in the world. See? The action is the same, but its purpose and its result just became infinitely larger.
All right, so if this intention is so powerful, what does it protect us from? Well, the text uses this really fascinating metaphor, an invisibility medicine that hides you from demons. I know, it sounds a bit dramatic, right? But as we're about to see, these demons aren't what you think.
The quote here talks about being unseen by all species of demons. But we're not talking about external monsters with pitchforks here. The source explains that they're actually much, much closer to home. These demons, or ma, are our own internal destructive habits. You know, the greed that pops up when we see something we want, or the anger that flares up when we hear something we don't like. A mind that's dedicated to the welfare of everybody else, well, it just doesn't give those demons a foothold. There's nothing for them to grab onto. And in that way, we become invisible to their influence. So this means bodhicitta isn't just some passive shield, it's an active force. The text calls it a counter-obstacle, which means it doesn't just block negativity, it actively works to dismantle the very foundations of suffering, both in ourselves and in the people we interact with. Pretty cool. Okay, our next metaphor is this idea of an unbreakable jewel, something that protects all of our progress. And this is illustrated with a really powerful story that gets right to the heart of our deepest habits, that unconscious choice we're always making between giving and receiving. So the story goes like this. 2 men are granted one wish as they leave the underworld. And their choice reveals what the source calls tapki, or habit energy. You can think of it as the default setting of your mind, that desire that just surfaces automatically when you're not really paying attention. And their choices had totally different results. The one whose habit was to receive became a beggar, destined for a life of lack. But the one whose habit was to give became a king, with all the abundance needed to help everyone. Now here's the key insight. The wish didn't create the habit created the wish. And that brings the question right back to us, doesn't it? Is our internal default setting one of getting or one of giving? The practice of bodhicitta is all about consciously and very deliberately rewiring that habit over and over again until giving becomes our new nature. This brings us to our final metaphor. Bodhicitta is described as a great light that outshines all the others. But to really appreciate how brilliant it is, we need to understand the other, dimmer lights it's being compared to. So the text contrasts this great light with the light of what it calls the 2 vehicles. Now these are spiritual paths focused on achieving one's own freedom from suffering.
And while these paths are seen as super valuable and luminous, the Bodhisattva's path is considered infinitely more vast.
The difference really comes down to the scope of their compassion. One path seeks freedom by understanding the general nature of suffering through their own experience, but the Bodhisattva path, it seeks to understand the unique, specific suffering of every single being in order to help them all. The text makes this beautiful distinction. It's like the difference between knowing the theory of hunger and knowing exactly what meal each hungry person is craving.
So, we have these 4 incredible metaphors. A medicine for a long life, a cloak of invisibility, an unbreakable jewel, and a brilliant light. What does all of this mean for us, right here, right now?
Well, these aren't just poetic ideas. They're a practical toolkit. And together they show us that a single compassionate intention can give our life deep meaning, shield our mind from negativity, protect our progress by rewiring us to give, and light up the most compassionate path forward.
The thread that connects all of these ideas is the transformation of our habits. We use that practical tool of dedication, that 3-step formula we talked about, to consciously reprogram our mind's default setting away from what can I get and toward what can I give, one small action at a time.
Ultimately, this isn't some abstract philosophy. It's a choice that's available to us in the very next moment. So the question is, what simple action will you perform today, and what grand intention will you dedicate it to? What small kindness can you offer, and what great healing will you aim it toward? Thanks for exploring all this with us.